Allow me to ask you that. The poor man, Koroviev let some tremor into his voice and pointed to Behemoth, who immediately concocted a woeful physiognomy. The poor man spends all day reparating primuses. He got hungry, and where's he going to get currency? To this Pavel Yosifovich, usually restrained and calm, shouted sternly. You just stop that. And waved into the distance, impatiently now. Then the trills by the door resounded more merrily. But Koroviev, unabashed by Pavel Yosifovich's pronouncement, went on. Where, I ask you this entire question. He's languishing with hunger and thirst, he's hot. So the hapless fellow took and sampled a mandarin. And the total worth of that mandarin is 3 kopecks. And here they go whistling like spring nightingales in the woods, bothering the police, tearing them away from their business. But he's allowed, eh? And here Koroviev pointed to the lilac fat man, which caused the strongest alarm to appear on his face. Who is he? Eh? Where did he come from? And why? Couldn't we do witty out him? Did we invite him, or what? Of course, the ex-choirmaster bawled at the top of his lungs, twisting his mouth sarcastically, just look at him, in his smart lilac suit, all swollen with salmon, all stuffed with currency, and us, what about the likes of us? I'm bitter. Bitter, bitter. Koroviev wailed, like the best man at an old-fashioned wedding. This whole stupid, tictus, and probably politically harmful speech made Pavel Yosifovich shake with wrath, but, strange as it may seem, one could see by the eyes of the crowding public that it provoked sympathy in a great many people. And when Behemoth, putting a torn, dirty sleeve to his eyes, exclaimed tragically, "Thank you, my faithful friend, you stood up for the sufferer," a miracle occurred. A most decent, quiet little old man, poorly but cleanly dressed, a little old man buying 3 macaroons in the confectionery department, was suddenly transformed. His eyes flashed with bellicose fire, he turned purple, hurled the little bag of macaroons on the floor, and shouted. True. In a child's high voice. Then he snatched up a tray, derowing from it the remains of the chocolate Eiffel Tower demolished by Behemoth, brandished it, tore the foreigner's hat off with his left hand, and with his right swung and struck the foreigner flat on his bald head with the tray. There was a roll as of the noise one hears when sheets of metal are thrown down from a truck. The fat man, turning white, fell backwards and sat in the barrel of Kerch herring, spouting a fountain of brine from it. Straightway a second miracle occurred. The lilac one, having fallen into the barrel, shouted in pure Russian, with no trace of any accent. Murder! Police! The bandits are murdering me. Evidently having mastered, owing to the shock, this language hitherto unknown to him. Then the doorman's whistling ceased, and amid the crowds of agitated shoppers 2 military helmets could be glimpsed approaching. But the perfidious behemoth doused the confectionery counter with benzene from his primus, as one douses a bench in a bathhouse with a tub of water, and it blazed up of itself. The flame spurted upwards and ran along the counter, devouring the beautiful paper ribbons on the fruit baskets. The salesgirls dashed shrieking from behind the counters, and as soon as they came from behind them, the linen curtains on the windows blazed up and the benzene on the floor ignited. The public, at once raising a desperate cry, shrank back from the confectionery department, running down the no longer needed Pavel Yosifovich, and from behind the fish counter the sales clerks with their whetted knives trotted in single file towards the door of the rear exit. The lilac citizen, having extracted himself from the barrel, thoroughly drenched with herring juice, heaved himself over the salmon on the counter and followed after them. The glass of the mirrored front doors clattered and spilled down, pushed out by fleeing people, while the 2 blackguards, Koroviev and the glutton behemoth, got lost somewhere, but where, it was impossible to grasp. Only afterwards did eyewitnesses who had been present at the starting of the fire in the currency store in Smolensky marketplace tell how the 2 hooligans supposedly flew up to the ceiling and there popped like children's balloons. It is doubtful, of course, that things happen that way, but what we don't know, we don't know. But we do know that exactly 1 minute after the happening in Smolensky marketplace, Behemoth and Koroviev both turned up on the sidewalk of the boulevard just by the house of Grabodov's aunt. Koroviev stood by the fence and spoke. "Ha! This is the writer's house. You know, Behemoth, I've heard many good and flattering things about this house. Pay attention to this house, my friend. It's pleasant to think how under this roof no end of talents are being sheltered and nurtured. Like pineapples in a greenhouse, said Behemoth, and, the better to admire the cream-colored building with columns, he climbed the concrete footing of the cast-iron fence. Perfectly correct, Korolev agreed with his inseparable companion, and a sweet awe creeps into one's heart at the thought that in this house there is now ripening the future author of a Don Quixote or a Faust, or, devil take me, a Dead Souls. Frightful to think of, agreed Behemoth. Yes, Korolev went on, one can expect astonishing things from the hotbeds of this house, which has united under its roof several thousand zealots resolved to devote their lives to the service of Melpomene, Polyhymnia, and Talia. You can imagine the noise that will arise when one of them, for starters, offers the reading public the Inspector General or, if worse comes to worst, Yevgeny Onegin. Quite easily, Behemoth again agreed. Yes, Korolev went on, anxiously raising his finger, but, I say, and I repeat this but. Only if these tender hothouse plants are not attacked by some microorganism that gnaws at their roots so that they rot. And it does happen with pineapples,